A tropical paradise, believed to be a gateway to the stars. A remote landmass, home to enormous stone statues. And a mysterious man-made island that defies explanation. For more than a decade, Ancient Aliens has traveled the globe to explore some of the most isolated and enigmatic islands in the world. Now, we're going to take a look back at the top 10 mysterious islands we've investigated. Islands that just may hold the proof that Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials.
Some of the most mysterious places on the planet happen to be remote islands. And that is because many of them are home to stories and legends that extraterrestrials may have visited Earth in the distant past. Like the first location on our list where the native people say that their ancestors came from the stars. Number 10 on our countdown of the top 10 mysterious islands, the Big Island of Hawaii.
Hawaii's Big Island. This landmass is the largest island in the United States, covering an area of 4,000 square miles. To tourists, it is a paradise on Earth, but to the people that have inhabited this island for centuries and who carry with them the traditions of their ancestors, Hawaii is something very different. For many, like tribal leader Kimokeho Kapehulahua, it is the place where so-called star people came to Earth centuries ago and created humans.
This is where they settled down. It was definitely all of a resting place and overlooking these people that this created. The ancient Hawaiian, there was not a religion. It was just a way of life. We're all offsprings of star people. We call it Napoe Kalani, the people of the heaven.
Each autumn, when the Pleiades star system appears on the horizon, practitioners of the old native Hawaiian faith gather to celebrate the harvest and honor Lono, the god of rain and peace, who descended to the island in a canoe.
The Hawaiians believed that their people originated in the Pleiades. During the festival, the kahunas would chant the epic of creation, the Kumalipo chant, in which they would tell the story of the descent of Lono on a rainbow. And it's thought that Lono descended from the Pleiades. It also makes sense that he could have returned to the Pleiades as well.
Did extraterrestrials visit Hawaii in the distant past? And if so, for what purpose?
I've always said that Earth is a planet of experimentation. I keep thinking of the island of Dr. Moreau, where you're sequestered in a certain area and you can conduct your work in quiet and in privacy.
What if the planet itself has been an experimental lab? Extraterrestrials would use islands for one experiment, tops of mountains for another experiment, but they would control what they were doing by keeping their different experiments separated from each other.
If I were an extraterrestrial looking for the perfect laboratory, I would look no further than the Hawaiian Islands. Before the arrival of Europeans, there were no reptiles, no mosquitoes, no rats. It was as pure a place as any on our planet. And in many ways, it was the perfect spot for a laboratory.
Hawaii isn't the only island where there are stories of visitors who descended from the sky. Off the coast of Great Britain is a tiny landmass that the locals say was once populated by beings who arrived in what they described as cloud ships. At number 9 on our countdown of mysterious islands, the Isle of Man.
The Irish Sea. Located just off the eastern shore of Ireland lies the Isle of Man. Home to approximately 80,000 people, this small island nation is roughly half the size of Los Angeles, stretching 32 miles long and just 14 miles across. But according to folklore, the Isle of Man was once home to a godlike race of beings called the Tua De Danann.
The Tuatha De Danann, probably the most important tribe or figures that show up in Irish mythology. Tuatha means tribe. De means gods or divine. So divine tribes, gods of the divine.
There is a description in the mythological material in the early Irish literature of the Tuatha De Danann arriving in cloud ships and landing on a mountain.
According to the ancient stories, after the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann in Ireland, the Isle of Man became ruled by a king named Manannán mac Cluair and served as a home to many of these visitors from the sky.
Manannán mac Cluair was one of the Tuatha De Danann, and he was a god for the Celtic peoples. He also had many magical powers. For example, he was known to be a sorcerer and to be able to change his shape into that of anything that he wished.
The Tuatha De Danann had an arsenal of very technological sounding weaponry and circles of light they used to travel around Ireland upon.
The ancient astronaut theory tries to look at ancient stories in which magic happens from a modern perspective and determine if that so-called magic really was some type of technology. Then one has to wonder, where did that technology come from? Well, there's only one answer to this, and that is extraterrestrials.
Could the legends of the Tuatha De Danann be describing otherworldly beings that once inhabited the Isle of Man? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining UFO sightings that have been reported on the island for centuries.
There have been reports of UFOs on the Isle of Man for a very long time. The peoples there still believe in them today. They still see them on a regular basis. And the most common type of report is that strange lights move about for a period of time and then disappear.
So you have to think really that Isle of Man was some kind of island that was chosen by the extraterrestrials. They would land their UFOs there. And in fact, legends about UFOs and extraterrestrials continue on the island even to this day.
If you travel just 450 miles west of the Isle of Man, you will come upon the site of another mysterious island. But this one can't be visited because it reportedly vanished beneath the ocean. Number 8 on our list, Hy Brasil.
The North Atlantic Ocean. 200 miles off the western coast of Ireland lie open waters as far as the eye can see. But according to 14th century maps of the area, this is the location of a so-called phantom island known as Hy Brasil.
Hy Brasil allegedly appeared and disappeared behind the mists. It could never definitively be found, although its putative location is marked on some of these early maps.
Hy Brasil was first recorded by the Italian Majorcan cartographer Angelino de Dell'Orto in 1325, who described the island as being a strikingly round form. Then, in 1497, Italian explorer John Cabot reported reaching Hy Brasil. Other explorers of the time returned from the island with accounts of meeting beautiful, glowing people.
Like a lot of other mythologies, such as Atlantis, Hy Brasil was thought to be the source of civilization. And these people originated from the stars. They are the people that the human race descended from.
Might Hy Brasil have been a place where otherworldly beings landed on planet Earth and jump-started civilization? And if so, what could explain its mysterious disappearance and reappearance over the years? Ancient astronaut theorists believe a clue can be found within tales of vanishing islands from Greek mythology.
In ancient Greece, there are these stories of a type of movable island that the ancient Greeks referred to as asteriae. Asteriae means stars falling from the sky. And in certain instances, these stars landed in the water and then they were able to move around under its own propulsion. So what if Hy Brasil was nothing else but a glorified extraterrestrial craft? In the Mediterranean Sea, there's an island rich with history and culture that spans thousands of years. But perhaps what's most intriguing are the mysterious megalithic structures found there. Structures that are believed to have been built by giants. Number 7 on our countdown of the top 10 mysterious islands, Sardinia.
Sardinia, Italy. Located 116 miles west of the Italian peninsula, this picturesque island in the Mediterranean boasts rugged mountains, arid grasslands, and white sand beaches. It is also home to many mysterious ancient stone structures built by the Nuragic civilization that was believed to have inhabited the island nearly 4,000 years ago.
Sardinia is probably best known for its abundance of structures called nuraghi. And these are conical towers, usually truncated at the top so that there's a flat base. There are approximately 7,000 nuraghi that scholars have uncovered on Sardinia, though that number could be as high as 20,000 or more.
These nuraghi are made out of huge basalt boulders. They're stacked up into towers and walls and beehive chambers. Archaeologists do not know how they were all built. They assume that huge ramps were built to move all of this material. Throughout Sardinia, there are stories of giants. And you have to wonder if whoever was building these structures were giants.
Is it possible that Sardinia was once home to a population of giants? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and point to several stone statues found on the island, known as the Giants of Monte Brama.
So the giants of Monte Brama are very tall stone giants that were found on the western coast of Sardinia back in 1974. Since then, there's been numerous excavations, and over 40 of these stone giants, over 8 feet tall, have now been reconstructed from pieces that were found there.
For all intents and purposes, the face looks like a replica of C-3PO, the robot. And the fact that archaeologists suggest that these are the replicas of the local population, and they even call them the Giants of Monte Brama, you have to wonder, is it possible that Sardinia at some point was visited by extraterrestrials? And I think the answer is yes. The ancient statues of giants on Sardinia are truly extraordinary. But there is another island near Australia that has stories of giant beings that are said to actually be living there today. Number 6 on our countdown of the top 10 mysterious islands, Guadalcanal.
Almost 2,000 miles northeast of Australia lie the Solomon Islands. While this chain contains more than 900 islands, the most well-known is Guadalcanal, which served as a strategic military base during World War II. Today, a series of mysterious events have convinced locals the island is home to enormous otherworldly beings.
There are mysterious legends all over the Solomons, actually. A lot of the stories in Guadalcanal tend to talk about giants, the relationship between people and giants. Giants are often portrayed in different ways. Sometimes they are benevolent giants. They help people. They look after people. But there are stories about giants killing people and taking over things.
There are legends and stories that go way back that suggest that giants actually still live on the Solomon Islands. Some say they're kind of hairy beasts kind of beings. Others say they're more humanoid. And some say they even relate and kind of mate with the human population.
People talk about it, that giants actually do exist. They existed in the past. Today, with all kinds of developments that are taking place, they shift further into the mountains. They really do exist. It's not just a mythology to scare children.
According to one report, in 1998, workers in a gold mining operation witnessed what they believed might be evidence of some type of giant humanoid when one of their bulldozers broke down. The workers claimed they removed the 10-ton blade from the machine to make overnight repairs. But when they returned to the dig site the next morning, they were shocked by what they found.
The blade itself had been moved quite a distance, and they found footprints of giants in the mud. So they could only assume that these famous giants of the Solomon Islands had been there and moved the bulldozer blade.
Is Guadalcanal really home to giants? And if so, where did they come from? Some researchers believe the answer can be found in eyewitness accounts of mysterious objects in the sky.
The Australian author Boyron believed that incidents of the giants that he had been told about by the natives were related to UFO activity. And from what he could put together, there was some kind of UFO base deep in the mountains of central Guadalcanal, and it involved these giants.
The Solomon Islands has been a hotbed of UFO activity for centuries. There are numerous accounts of abductions, people who disappear after coming into contact with these UFOs, never to be seen again.
You have to wonder if these famous giants of Guadalcanal were in fact extraterrestrials.
We're coming up on the halfway point in our countdown of the top 10 mysterious islands. The South Pacific is home to some of the most remote islands on Earth, and the history of this region is filled with stories of otherworldly visitors, like the next entry on our list, number 5, Nuku Hiva.
The South Pacific, 3,000 miles west of Mexico, lies a rocky volcanic island known as Nuku Hiva.
Nuku Hiva is the largest of the Polynesian islands, and it's the northerly part of the group. It is the capital.
According to local legends, Nuku Hiva was built by the god of creation, Ono, for his wife. Once it was complete, their offspring populated the area. In 2018, ancient astronaut theorists Georgios Tsoukalos and David Childress traveled to Nuku Hiva and met with local guide Aniata Kimitete to investigate the stories about the arrival of the gods, as well as the statuary depicting them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is this considered a tiki?
Yes, these tikis represent the population.
So, what is a tiki?
A tiki at first was the representation of our god of magic and sorcery. He was one of the only gods in French Polynesia that has the face of a man.
To the people of Nuku Hiva, the word tiki refers to both an ancestral figure that came to the islands in ancient times, as well as the statues that represent him. They are variously carved in both wood and stone, and often depict a being with large, goggle-like eyes.
The lore has it that Tiki was the primary ancestor and was created in the image of the sky god. The local people made statues in honor of their creator god, Tiki, and used them in worship.
And this is what Tiki looks like.
Yes, because they say in the legend that when Tiki left the earth, they made the sculpture of how he looked like, just to have something to remember from Tiki.
There are multiple other versions of the exact same motif worldwide, with people with elongated skulls and giant goggle eyes. Like what comes to mind immediately is in Peru.
Yeah, at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, you have the same goggle-headed eyed people. You have that in Mexico too, with the Olmec statues.
Yes. These may be depictions of actual extraterrestrials who visited the Earth thousands of years ago. I still get goosebumps thinking about my trip to Nuku Hiva and seeing the carvings of the tiki. But another mysterious island in the South Pacific has something even more astounding. Hundreds of massive stone statues. The number 4 site on our countdown, Easter Island.
More than 2,000 miles southeast of Nuku Hiva is one of the most isolated places on the planet, Easter Island. Today, some 5,000 people make their home there, most of whom are the descendants of Easter Island's original inhabitants, the Rapa Nui. But the island's most famous residents are the hundreds of massive ancient stone statues, known as moai, that are scattered across its grassy cliffs. Most are between 15 to 20 feet tall, but the tallest stands over 70 feet, and the heaviest weighs approximately 165 tons.
The statues on Easter Island, which we call moai, are one of the great archaeological wonders of the world. They are unique. And we believe that overall they carved something like 1,000 of these moai over some centuries, maybe even over 1,000 years.
For the Rapa Nui, the moai are statues of once living ancestors, that they passed away, that they moved to the other world, but that they can still communicate with their living descendants through the statues that are the images of them.
The thing about these moai is that they have these very strange faces, very elongated. They don't look quite human. They're humanoid, but they're somehow different than ordinary humans. They look almost alien in appearance. And you have to wonder, what do they ultimately represent?
The moai were carved from volcanic rock quarried at the center of the island. But just how the ancient Rapa Nui were able to transport these giant statues remains a mystery. According to the legends of the Rapa Nui, their ancestors used a type of energy, known as mana, to levitate the giant sculptures into place.
The king was given the gift of mana from the great creator god, Make. Mana is a magical energy, and it seemed to be capable of extraordinary feats. The king used the power of mana to command that the great stone statues walk.
One has to wonder, well, either they all were off their rockers describing these things, or they witnessed something. And I'm leaning more in the direction that they witnessed something because there had to have been a spark of inspiration. And so in my opinion, mana was some type of extraterrestrial technology that allowed these stones to be levitated into place. Some of the most compelling evidence for the ancient astronaut theory can be found on a chain of islands just off the coast of France. Thousands of years ago, the people there were compelled to build hundreds of mysterious stone structures that confound researchers to this very day. Number 3 on our countdown, the British Isles.
The North Atlantic, consisting of more than 6,000 islands, including Great Britain and Ireland. The British Isles are home to more than 72 million people. But these islands are also home to some of the most mysterious megaliths on Earth, the stone circles.
The British Isles is the only ancient culture to have built stone circles on a large scale. And it all began around 5,100 years ago off the north coast of Scotland. And then over a period of about another 100 years, the stone circle building tradition spread pretty rapidly throughout the rest of the British Isles, through England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland.
Stonehenge is the most magnificent stone circle in the British Isles. It's unique. It's unlike any stone circle anywhere on the planet. It's perfectly circular. It has astronomical alignments.
According to mainstream archaeology, stone circles like Stonehenge were constructed as elaborate calendars, but ancient astronaut theorists believe they served a more profound purpose.
It is true that Stonehenge can be used or was used as a calendar. There is no doubt about it. However, in order to create a calendar, there was absolutely zero need to build a megalithic structure as gigantic as Stonehenge, because you could have recreated the entire same thing by essentially placing ordinary sticks in the ground. And that was not the case. So what was it?
In 2019, authors Andrew Collins and Graham Phillips set out to investigate some of the most mysterious stone circles of the British Isles on the Orkney Islands of Scotland. This small island chain is home to Skara Brae, an ancient settlement that is over 5,000 years old. Now known as the Scottish Pompeii, it was discovered in 1850 after a storm revealed the ancient ruins.
Just look at this place. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
It's pretty sophisticated. I mean, these walls here are really quite advanced for 5,000 years ago, when everybody else in the country was living in, well, mud huts, basically.
I know. And the incredible thing about this is the descendants of these people end up creating all of the stone circles around Britain.
Experts believe that the descendants of Skara Brae began building stone circles throughout Great Britain, including Stonehenge. But what compelled them to do so? Andrew believes the answer can be found at a stone circle near Skara Brae called the Ring of Brodgar, and its connection to mysterious lights in the sky.
We're here at the Ring of Brodgar. It is a henge circle, so all around the outside of it is a ditch and embankment.
One of the things that's been repeatedly found in connection with stone circles is that virtually every location is also somewhere associated with the appearance of mysterious lights, what we'd call UFOs. We're talking about Stonehenge, Avebury, the Isle of Anglesey in Wales. All of these locations, mysterious lights appear and then disappear.
Is it possible that the mysterious stone circles found on the British Isles were once used to signal otherworldly beings? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and point to the fact that the stones used to build the ancient circles contained large amounts of quartz.
Quartz crystal can hold frequency or vibration. It can store energy, in other words. That opens the possibility that it has a technological application. We use crystals in computers and in radios and lasers, digital watches. All kinds of technology is based on quartz crystal.
It's been documented in the UK that a lot of these stone circles are associated with strange lights and UFO activities, and we have to wonder about the energy there. So it may well be that in some cases there's some kind of electronic magnetic signature that they put out that are beacons for UFOs.
Could it be that extraterrestrial beings have been visiting the British Isles for thousands of years? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence that ancient islanders were influenced by otherworldly beings can be found on a mysterious isle off the coast of Italy, where archaeologists have uncovered very curious, human-like remains.
The next location on our list has more than 24 incredible prehistoric temples that defy conventional explanation. But perhaps the most mysterious and intriguing place on the island can be found underground. Number 2 on our countdown, Malta.
In the center of the Mediterranean Sea, between Italy and Africa, lies a 3-island archipelago that makes up the Republic of Malta.
Malta is this really small island nation just south of Sicily, and it's so small it's only 122 square miles in its entirety. But because it's a dead center of the Mediterranean Sea, Malta really packs a punch historically.
What Malta is most well known for historically is the incredible series of megalithic complexes there, created around 3,000 to 4,000 BC. They involve places like Tarxian, Hagar Quin, and a quite fantastic megalithic structure known as Gigantica. Now, this essentially means the place of the giantess. And the fascinating thing is beliefs on Malta that all of these structures are made by giants.
For centuries, visitors to Malta marveled at the island nation's ancient megalithic structures. But what no one knew until the 20th century was that Malta's most extraordinary construction lied hidden beneath the ground. In 1902, construction workers uncovered a massive underground complex carved out of the bedrock, now known as the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni. It is considered the greatest engineering feat of the Neolithic age.
The jewel in the archaeological crown of Malta has to be the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni. This is a remarkable structure, particularly when you bear in mind they didn't have metal tools. It's just mind-boggling.
Archaeologists realized that this was a huge underground network of chambers and corridors. You enter down into it, and there are a series of 3 different levels. All of them are interconnected with corridors and flow into chambers.
Soon after the discovery of the hypogeum, archaeologists excavating the subterranean chambers found more than 7,000 skeletons. Strangely, a great many of them had skulls that were noticeably elongated.
It was found that some of the skulls were actually elongated. They were almost like the head going backwards rather than upwards. Does that represent the fact that they were doing head binding? They were pressed into shape when these people were babies?
Head binding has been a practice of numerous primitive cultures around the world. It involves tightly wrapping the heads of infants before their skulls fully harden, resulting in an elongated shape.
In my opinion, the smoking gun of this whole extraterrestrial question is the elongated skull phenomenon. Worldwide, in different museums, you find these skulls that clearly have an elongated cranium, and the mainstream explanation is that our ancestors did this to mimic their gods of worship. And right there is where it becomes interesting, because if they mimic someone, well, you had to have seen someone. So is it possible that whoever visited our ancestors back in the day had these elongated skulls? And my answer to that is a resounding yes.
Malta is one of these islands which is not understandable. Why on such a small island so many temples? I think they were extraterrestrials. They were a race of giants. The reality is extraterrestrials were here thousands of years ago. Extraterrestrials are here today. We are under observation.
We're just moments away from the most mysterious island on our list. And we've definitely saved the best for last, because this location contains what I believe to be undeniable proof that it was built with the help of extraterrestrial technology. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean is a site that absolutely blows my mind. The locals say that this artificial island was built thousands of years ago with the technology of the gods. At number 1 on our countdown, the island of Nan Madol.
Pohnpei, Micronesia, located roughly 2,500 miles northeast of Australia. This remote island is home to some of the oldest and most astounding ruins of the ancient world, Nan Madol. It is an 11 square mile complex consisting of more than 100 man-made islets, standing atop a submerged coral reef. Archaeologists estimate that to construct the site, the builders used 250 million tons of basalt, some blocks weighing upwards of 50 tons.
Nan Madol is this amazing construction. It's a full-on city. When pilots during World War II would fly over that part of the Pacific, they would look out their windows and they would see what essentially was described as the Venice of the Pacific. So that became one of its nicknames.
In 2019, ancient astronaut theorists Georgios Tsoukalos and David Childress traveled to the remote island to try and understand how Nan Madol was built.
It's exciting.
They were joined by Micronesia's National Historic Preservation Officer, Gus Kohler.
All right, Lou.
Hi, Gus. This is our guy.
How are you, Gus?
Welcome to you. Welcome. So here's this huge wall here full of prismatic basalt. How would you build that then today?
Well, you'd certainly need cranes, I can tell you that. Even for some of these smaller blocks you're talking about on the order of tens of tons.
So how would you build this if you didn't have any cranes?
That's a mystery to me. I can't imagine how it could be built without cranes.
So, Gus, what is your tradition of how they built these walls?
Well, according to our oral history, these rocks came from the north. We're in the southeast. This area is the southeast. And in fact, the recent studies has been able to collaborate that 40% of these rocks actually came from the north.
Recently, a growing number of scientists have become convinced that the basalt used to construct Nan Madol came from a volcanic outcropping 25 miles northeast of the ancient site. But how were the massive stones transported over such a long distance? To investigate, the team traveled to another site on the island that is said to have belonged to Nan Madol's original builders.
So, Gus, what is then the oral history of moving this stone on the island?
Well, according to the legends, the stones were flown up here. Rocks were brought from the north and they were flown up here.
For generations, the people of Pohnpei have told the story that Nan Madol was built by strange visitors through a process of levitation.
Well, we have in the oral traditions story about two brothers, Olusopa and Olusipa. They managed to construct what you know today as Nan Madol. According to oral histories, the stones flew to the Nan Madol area.
According to the tale, the basalt was carried by what the natives referred to as a giant bird.
There's one story that says that at some point there were these giant roosters that lived on top of that mountain, and this rooster took these basalt blocks and flew them over to Nan Madol. Now, monster roosters do not exist, so my mind always goes to misunderstood technology, machines that were provided by the extraterrestrials. Why is it that remote islands all around the world are home to so many mysterious structures, sightings, and legends of otherworldly beings? Well, perhaps these secluded locations offered the perfect outposts for extraterrestrials who came to Earth thousands of years ago and may still be visiting today.